She brings a compassionate lens to the conversation around PTSD, focusing on practical strategies that support healing from the inside out. That's a little plug for our nonprofit, by the way. Her insights combine pharmacology knowledge with a deep understanding of trauma's impact on the body and the mind. As a speaker, she empowers her audiences to explore what truly helps, from medication to mindfulness, with clarity, empathy, and hope. Here's Amanda.
Thanks for being with all the IT issues. Thank you so much for sharing. That was extremely helpful. I know it is. So yes, my name is Amanda. I'm a pharmacist by trade, but in the last year or so, I have started to work with moms and women in particular to try and give us more of a community, because we are often kind of out there, a fight or flight, dealing with a situation as a parent. And then when you become a parent, it kind of catches you off guard, and that's very fight or flight and survival mode. So that's where my focus has come in. I will say that there are 2 people in my family who do actually suffer from PTSD, so it is something that's close to my heart as well. And that's why I'm excited to share some information about this. It did. Oh, perhaps the TV did. See? IT. Shannon will fix it.
I will try.
Ah.
How do we wait?
It's like my house, 8 remotes. Oh, wrong TV. I got the wrong TV on.
Oh. Oh.
Hmm. If there's a will, there's a way.
Wake up.
Did I turn the wrong one? I turned on the other TVs with it.
There it goes.
Oh. Oh, okay. So input maybe. Nope, that's the source on the other TVs. Ah. There we go. You turn off. Okay. All right, now we're cooking. Oh, now I've got the other TVs on. All right. Okay. So yes, I do have notes. So as a pharmacist, I've spent most of my professional life, of course, focusing on medications and looking at things from the life of like science and, neuroscience, things like that. But from experience, I can tell you that it's not just about medications. It's all about the whole body. It's not the whole story. Medications are not just the whole story. And it's important for us to break down the stigma of medications, of course, but also other therapies as well, especially the things that people might call a little bit woo-woo. I've been trying to be way more open. Yes, the woo-woo stuff. The woo-woo stuff is great. It really does work. And we will talk a little bit about why that is. So the 3 main categories that I will focus on today for treatment are going to be, medications, of course, because that's my shtick usually, but therapy category as well. So that might be counseling, it might be other kinds of therapy that we'll talk about a little bit about, and then the lifestyle, holistic, woo-woo side. Yes, the good stuff, yes. And I will say that definitely, it says here, healing isn't linear, it's layered. That really means it's not a straight line. you don't expect to just go in and one thing's going to fix everything. Sometimes it does, but healing is often layered. It comes in waves and it has seasons. So maybe right now you're ready for it. Maybe you're not ready for it, things like that. Different seasons in your life when you might be open to be ready to make some changes. And it is a process. And I do want to point out that though medications may help stabilize, like the neurotransmitters we'll talk a little bit about, but that is a process. There are multiple different modalities that can be used. Modalities is that big word for treatment strategies. And it's important to do the deeper work to find out what the real cause of things are, to really dive into it, not put a Band-Aid on things, and also to be kind to yourself, to be patient with yourself, not just beat yourself up. Why isn't this working right now? I want it to work right now, et cetera, because we're very good at beating ourselves up when something isn't working for us. We blame ourselves. So we talked about trauma rewiring the brain, but the good news is that treatment can, I don't want to say unwire, but rewire. So your brain is made of pathways, neurological pathways, and when you experience something, a pathway is made. But you can actually create new pathways or kind of tone down those existing pathways that have already been made. Think of it as like a pencil on a paper. The more times you write on it, the darker it becomes. That's how I kind of think of things. It's never going to fully erase, but you can maybe help make a new pathway, a new way of thinking about things, a new way of approaching, a new way of rewiring your brain. This is an important statement that I've said to myself, I've said to my family, I've said to my friends, I've said to my patients. It's not your fault what happened to you, but it is your responsibility to help yourself live your best life going forward. And I find that that's, like I said, pretty pivotal for me to remember, but also helps with that guilt and shame about things that might have happened in the past. We'll talk about the targets of treatment. So treatment targets, Shannon talked a little bit about the brain. Well, both of you guys talked about the brain itself, but I will kind of discuss where these things hit in the brain because they are different. And it's important to understand that they are different because they can layer upon each other. Not just one treatment necessarily is going to fix everything, if you want to use the word fix lightly, but they go together. They work together. All of these different therapies can work together because they work on different parts of the brain. So we were talking about the brain earlier, the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and the hippocampus. Those are the main ones when it comes to PTSD and or stress reaction, things like that. And the prefrontal cortex is there. Is there a threat? Is the logical part of the brain saying, is this a threat? So it's more of like the, we like to call it the decision maker, the decider of whether or not this is a real threat. Well, that can be messed up if your signals aren't coming from the other parts of your brain to tell you if it really is a threat or not. The amygdala, I like to call that one the fire alarm. That's the one that's like, oh my God, there's a threat, freaking out. Fire alarm, smoke detector, going off, going off, going off, going off. So that's that fight or flight or freeze kind of concept. And then the hippocampus, we talked about it being memory filing. I like to think of that one as the librarian. Okay, this happened. How do I file it for next time? Because that lizard brain of us, like our instinct to protect ourselves is, okay, I need to file this for later because if it happens again, what do I do? And right now, this working as human beings, as a species, this is supposed to help protect us from lions and tigers and bears and anything negative that might happen to you. But when things get off kilter, then you can't function properly. You might be reacting like an overreaction to a certain stimulus that should not happen. So it's important to understand all these do. So I'll talk a little bit about the different treatments. So first we'll talk about the hippocampus. That's the librarian. And this is the one that files everything properly. So you can look at different types of treatments for this one. This one particularly, the ketamine-assisted psychotherapy is very good at helping because it helps with we talked about that pencil line. So there is the possibility of making new lines, making new associations with memories, new association with events, things like that. So Shannon had talked about your neuroplasticity. That just means literally like, I mean, what it kind of means is like the stretchiness of your brain, your ability to make new memories, new nerve conduction, new lines, new associations. Yes, and ketamine specifically helps with allowing your brain to create those new things. So that's why I'm especially excited about that as a treatment. And we'll talk a little bit about availability of those things, like in the world right now. The amygdala, that's that fear center, that's that smoke detector, that fire alarm. That one is particularly targeted with EMDR, which is eye movement. Man, I always forget. Yes, desensitization and reprocessing. So the name in there saying desensitization and reprocessing. So you've got a trigger and it helps you become less sensitive to it. And then it helps you reprocess that situation, refile it and go, okay, maybe that trigger that I had, okay, I was able to handle it a little bit better this time. And it helps you refile into that library of how do I react next time. So that's a really great one as well. If you guys do want more specifics about any of the treatments that we talk about, just come and ask us. I'm kind of giving a broad overview because if I got too deep into the weeds, you don't just like, what? So another thing that works really well with the amygdala, that fire alarm center, are things like breathwork, yoga, meditation. It helps to calm the fire alarm, where you can kind of tell by like, oh, let's calm down, and taking some deep breaths, things like that. So the meditation and breathwork, I will make a note, actually works on a couple parts of the brain. So note on that one. I feel like that one's often overlooked. The prefrontal cortex, this is that part that we talked about where it's decision making. Is this a threat or is it not a threat? It's like being able to decide and make that decision of logical decision if something is a threat or not a threat. The CBT, this is called cognitive behavioral therapy. You've probably heard about this thrown around somewhere. Somebody said something about it at some point in time. This will reframe the trauma. So you kind of revisit it, and it's a thought-related experiment. It is gradual. So it kind of helps you learn how to deal with that thought, revisit it, and then react to things. It's gradual, but it is scientifically proven, hands down. That's one that is like a first line. We say first line treatment. It was like one thing that therapists will recommend right off the bat is a cognitive behavioral therapy. It can help with intrusive thoughts. So intrusive thoughts are those things that when they pop into your head, you can't get rid of the thought. Like it's just stuck there and you kind of have to like shake your head to get rid of that thought, to get it to go away. So intrusive thoughts, avoiding situations where you might be in that trigger zone. So that might allow you to, let's say you've got issues with being in a large social gathering setting. So if that was something you were trying to work on, then this type of therapy might be really good at helping you get back into a social situation again. So they all work, like I said, in different ways. And then also with fear. So that's the prefrontal cortex, the cognitive behavioral therapy. And I did mention that meditation also works for that one too. 2 for 1. Self-compassion, noted in there as well. I'm going to continue to harp on that one because, like I said, we're all hard on ourselves. And then being hard on yourself and saying, why isn't this working? I'm stupid. I can't get this done. Or like I'm weak or whatever it is. That doesn't help you get anywhere, and it only makes things worse. So, and then the neurochemistry, that's more of like the not just the drug zone. So I got SSRIs and other medications. So that's like your typical, you hear about like Prozac or something like that. So the drugs that you might start on to help you regulate the chemical imbalance that you've got going on. So there's, if you've got that going on, chemical imbalance, that's one part of the equation. But then also, what also really, really helps is that neurochemistry. We're talking about being exhausted and cortisol and things like that. Getting sleep, I'm sure we've all heard this a million times, getting plenty of sleep, eating right, getting some exercise, regulating those stress hormones. That all goes into that neurochemistry, all of that chemical side of your brain, which does eventually go into your body as well. So just a quick mention that, like I said, healing is not just emotional. We talked about the cortisol and the other neurotransmitters, things like that, that also go into your body. The book that you had mentioned has also been recommended to me. It's actually The Body Keeps the Score. Did you recommend that? Oh, yes, The Body Keeps the Score. Yes, I've got that in my library to read next, but that was something that was recommended of where do we hold our pain in our body. We're having tightness in our chest, stomach pains, hip pains, things like that. So that has also been one that's been highly recommended to me as well. So this kind of leads into this point. Healing is not just emotional, it's also neurological. So using multiple different pathways to do different things and work on different targets of the brain is extremely important. And every breath, every boundary, every brave step that you take, so any little thing that you do is not wasted. It will get you somewhere further along the path to where you need to be. This is kind of the overview of the different toolbox kit, we would call it, or the modalities. That's just the fancy name for toolboxes, like all these different tools that you have available to you. I mentioned the EMDR, the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Did it right that time. And this is, you've probably seen this